Pete Sampson with Tim O'Malley inside Stanford Stadium after Stanford's 38-20 victory over Notre Dame. It was a close game that didn't end that way. 3 turnovers doomed Notre Dame. Brandon Wimbush under 50% passing. A critical special teams error on the C.J. Sanders fumble, and really it unfortunately for Notre Dame's perspective looked like this game always seems to look, where Stanford figures out how to make a few plays to win it and Notre Dame does not.
Yeah, when you make 2 turnovers, you can blame the game on turnovers, but you're the reason the turnovers happen. It was a characteristic interception. Notre Dame special teams, especially the return game, have been bad all year. They actually got a big play out of the punt return game, and the offense couldn't capitalize. And oddly, that has been what they've done all year, is capitalize on big plays, being able to turn red zone appearances into touchdowns. Didn't happen today. I thought that was pretty big. They had to settle for a field goal there in 20-17 lead. They never scored again, and Stanford had 3 touchdowns in the next 5 game minutes just to blow it wide open.
Yeah, even though Notre Dame's players felt like they had an offensive rhythm, I didn't see one. You take out the 2 big plays to St. Brown and Stephenson, they averaged 3.6 yards per play, which is terrible for a offense that was really one of the best in the country at that. I am very curious to see where Notre Dame goes with Brandon Wimbush, because it's happened too many times now where he's had a performance like this. When Brian Kelly volunteers that he's our starting quarterback moving forward without being asked, is he your starting quarterback moving forward, that's at least on his mind. There's a lot to get out of this kid, but he is not developed nearly as much as KJ Costello was in about 4 or 5 starts. He was outstanding tonight, and his stat line of 14 of 22 for 4 touchdowns was Van Gorder-esque in terms of making a quarterback who is maybe above average look outstanding.
His stat line is what we wanted from Brandon Wimbush coming into this year, where a team has to load up to stop the run, and Notre Dame, Brian Kelly said we were going to do things to make sure Bryce Love didn't beat us. Love ended up with a good game, but he wasn't the one that beat him. KJ Costello beat them. That's what you thought Brandon Wimbush would be able to do, because teams would load the box against Notre Dame. Well, Stanford loaded the box against Notre Dame. They stopped Notre Dame's running game, and they got burned by 2 pass plays, catch and runs. But other than that, and I know those plays count. Those are big plays, but as you mentioned, that's 158 yards on 2 pass plays. Well, on 26 other pass plays, they had less than 100 yards gained. So they weren't in a rhythm. They did not run the ball well, even though they were a little bit defiant post-game saying that they did. The proof is there. I thought it was something interesting Drew Tranquil said. He kind of answered the big picture question we had about the defense. Making so many plays for 2 months, then it kind of stops. Notre Dame's not creating the turnovers they need to win. And he said, yeah, there is such a thing, I believe, in defensive momentum and attitude. And when you're not getting the plays, I think some guys lose a little bit of confidence, and Stanford made the plays today.
I mean, Sean Crawford would have to be number 1 on that list. Yeah. The guy that we saw in September was outstanding. The turnovers at Michigan State, at Boston College, and then he's got a PI here, gets burned for really one of Costello's best throws of the night for the touchdown. So it's Notre Dame's defense, I still feel like is in good shape overall. I think they have real personnel issues more than they have scheme issues. Offensively, I think they have personnel and scheme issues, and I don't really know where they go with McGlinchey gone, Nelson gone. Adams, we'll see. I asked him after the game, said, his head's spinning, he can't think straight. That's fine, but if they can't get something more out of Brandon Wimbush, I really don't know what they're going to try to do on offense.
And I guess the bowl game is where you try to get something out of Brandon Wimbush, because obviously there's the seniors that helped turn this around. This is one of the things where they do want to win the bowl game for the seniors. Right. It's not a throwaway bowl game for Notre Dame. The way the season ended, they can't lose. They can't lose their bowl game, but mentally they cannot lose their bowl game. It's not, let's start planning for next year. This is the big run. Wimbush has to improve this month. He has to be able to win a game for the team for the seniors that really turn this thing around for him. And you can tell they could struggle to do it, depending the opponent they get, because I think they've lost their identity. If they feel like they're running like they did earlier in the year and there hasn't been a change, and this question was asked a lot since the Wake Forest game midway through, they're not watching the right film, because they just look like a completely different team.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Kelly said it was nonsense that this team had been regressing. That was before tonight, obviously. Yeah. This team is regressing right now. So can they sort of arrest that momentum? They did it in 2014, but at this point, a very good season for Notre Dame now is a questionable one. We said before the game they had a chance to underline what they had already done or put a question mark at the end of it. They ended up with a question mark. Stanford 38, Notre Dame 20.